The following program is a production of Encore Advertising in association with toolsforsuccess.com.
Well, we've heard it said that you never get a second chance to make a good first impression, that image is everything. I know my mother and father always told me that growing up, and it is true today just as much as it was back then, even truer today, because people make judgments on you based upon first impressions, usually in the first 10 seconds. Hi, my name is Ken Inlow. This is Tools for Success. Welcome to this podcast. Today's topic, of course, image is everything. Appearance, business etiquette, business entertaining, overall business image. What is it that makes that so important? Well, Debra Carr is our special guest today. She is a certified image consultant. She's an active member of the Association of Image Consultants International and a contributing writer for Northern Michigan Men's Magazine. Debra has attained Barber of the Year and has been awarded for excellence with Beauty Control Cosmetics. She was a barber salon owner for 26 years. She has been recognized in print media as a guest on radio programs and is here today to tell us how we can take our business to the next level as it relates to image. How is your image? Are you happy with it? Are others happy with it? What do others think when they look at you? What do others think when they see you? What do others think when they hear you speak? We're going to find out why those things are important in just a moment when we come back on this edition of Tools for Success with Debra Carr, all about image, right here. Stay close. Well, as I said a moment ago, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And my question to you today is, what kind of first impression are you giving out to people when you walk into the room? What are they thinking about? What are they evaluating? What are they examining? What do they see in you that maybe you don't see? What are the good things they see? What are the bad things they see? How long does it take for them to make an evaluation of whether or not they like you, whether or not they're going to do business with you, whether or not they want to be your friend? All of those things matter when it comes to image. And with us today, Debra Carr, who is going to answer those questions and put it all into perspective, all the way from Michigan. Debra, thank you for being with us today.
Well, hi, Ken. How are you? It's good to be here.
I am excited. Yeah, it's a great day, and we're all about image here in Oregon, let me tell you. It's all about hunters and fishermen, man, and they're out there in the cold and shooting their guns and doing all kinds of cool things. But image is important. I say that kind of facetiously. Image is important even in Oregon, believe it or not. It's important everywhere around the country, and you have quite a background. So let's start by asking you, why is image so important, not just in business, but just in all walks of life?
Well, actually, Ken, image is huge regardless in what area it is in our life, regardless if someone is dating for the first time or if they're ready to make a deal, in business, because it actually tells who we are and what we're about. And in business especially, it can make or break a deal just by the way we enter a room.
Now, let's talk about perceptions for a minute, because as I mentioned in the introduction, people do evaluate you when you walk in the room, like you say. And my question is, do people put others in different categories, even subconsciously, based on the image that they portray, maybe socioeconomically or stature-wise or any of those things?
Oh, absolutely. Regardless if it's right or wrong, people do make perceptions during the first 10 seconds of meeting someone. And those perceptions can vary anywhere from age to economic level to level of education, to people's trustworthiness, to the level of character, their level of confidence.
What are the things that people actually look at? Obviously, there's clothing, there's grooming, cleanliness, there's the car you drive. What attributes go into sizing somebody up?
Any attributes, actually. And it's, we know that it isn't right.
Exactly.
People do size you up, but they do. And it can be actually from the way you carry yourself into the room, your demeanor, your action, all of your body language, and yes, even your appearance. with 58% of the way we communicate is nonverbal, Ken. The different attributes that people look at, regardless if it is right or wrong, anything from your demeanor, your action, attitude, and appearance is what it boils down to when you first enter a room during those first 10 seconds. And those perceptions carry over on everything from your economic level to your social status, your likability, if they want to do business with you or not, or even if they want to date you, if it's in personal life. 58% of the way we communicate is nonverbal, with 35% is the tone of our voice, and only 7% is the actual words we speak. So when 7 enters a room, it's tremendous.
Now, image is important. We know that. But what about the little details? A lot of times people overlook those little things, and they say, well, it doesn't really matter if, I don't shine the shoes today or whatever. How important are the details?
Well, there are no image police, actually, but details do make a definite difference in the way our images pull together so it's congruent with you and the message that you sent. And one doesn't have to own a Cadillac to recognize one. For example, the simplicity of just walking to an office or a store that's clean and well organized speaks volumes to us because it shows that business owner really cares. For the individual, it's their appearance, their grooming should be of utmost importance. Making sure that a man is clean-shaven, that everyone's mouth is clean and healthy with good dental care, that hair is clean and well-cut and well-styled. And that's for both men and women. Women in business today average an income of 20 to 30% higher if they wear makeup, and that's subtle makeup. Those that wear too much, actually their incomes drop along with those that wear little or none at all. So there's that fine line of detail. Because if you take women, for instance, wearing makeup, the perception is that they are more detail-oriented and they'll pay more attention on their job and to the business at hand. Somebody goes into work sloppy, regardless if it's male or female. The perception is that they don't care, so why would they care about their work?
Right.
It does have a direct line to their income.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Question concerning the whole package as it relates to business. I know that you and I have visited a bit in the past, and you shared a story with me at one time about one of your clients who had to make a very powerful presentation involving potentially millions of dollars. Tell us that story, because I think it's just very appropriate for what we're talking about here.
It's appropriate, and even though his numbers were extreme for the average person doing business, the reason I told you that story is because details do make such a difference, and because the rules of the game are the same regardless of the number structure. I prepared one executive for a meeting for his board with his board of directors, and he was going to ask for $300+ million for this project that he was starting. And he had all the tools for the meeting. I mean, he knew all of his materials. However, his presentation started just before he entered that room. And the reason they started before he entered the room, he needed to walk in making a statement without saying a word. Everything had to be congruent. We packaged him from head to toe, commanding respect, not power, and that made a big difference in his presentation. And his body language, and even the suit he wore. Actually, Ken, it came right down to the dot in his tie, if you remember me telling you that before. And yes, he did get the money that he was asking for. That day, it was his entire package. His body language had to be appropriate for that. He had to go comfortable, confident, but not powerful. And when he approached that board of directors, and it doesn't matter if you're approaching someone in sales or how you're approaching someone, the package has to be congruent with yourself so you feel comfortable and feel good going in.
So that's something that an image consultant could engage in. That's one of your functions as an image consultant is addressing an issue like that, not necessarily $300 million, but like you say, that's not an everyday occurrence. But it's important to be able to be packaged in a way that really makes a lot of sense. And I'll bet you there's probably a lot of things you brought out for him that he probably wasn't aware of, that you were able to really bring him to that next level.
Really didn't realize, because he was, he's a very busy executive, and just like everyone, we're all busy with the type of work we do, and some things had gotten, pushed to the side that he didn't realize for this preparation for him to walk in. It also carries over if someone's ready to date. When they're repackaging themselves and getting ready to date again, if somebody's starting over.
Sure.
It also carries over, and like I said before, if someone's in sales
Mm-hmm.
or a business meeting of some type and moving up the corporate ladder or any ladder whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It carries over.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the distinction between the two words respect versus power, because would it be your opinion that respect really can take a person further in business than just power? Would that make sense?
Absolutely. Someone can, be so powerful that they're stiff, they're standoffish, they're not going to have effectiveness in business.
Mm-hmm.
Your staff members, your team members, or people that they do business with. There are times that you do need the power.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that I grew up thinking about this, when I was first new in this whole thing of image and so on and so forth way back. There's the whole thing about the blue pinstripe suit, the white shirt, and the red power tie. I always heard about that, the red power tie. I got to have my red power tie. And, I thought that was fascinating because, does that really... Are there different colors? Are there different ways to dress that will actually distinguish a person from being powerful versus commanding respect?
Yes. And commanding respect, there's different ways of doing that. And most of that is personality.
Mm-hmm.
But also if the colors are too harsh, if they're too contrast, it can be shocking compared to warming it up a bit. However, you don't want them so soft that they're not appropriate for business either. It depends what the market is and what it is. Let's say, for instance, you're making investments. I'm sure you wouldn't want to invest with someone that came and did a presentation to you that's dressed very ultra casual and maybe even having flip-flops on.
Right, absolutely. Right. No, that makes sense.
You do want them dressed appropriately.
Sure. Debra, tell us a little bit about the term packaging. I know I've heard you use that in the past. When a person is packaged together nicely, give us an example of something that you would say would be an appropriate kind of a package, maybe someone you've dealt with or a circumstance that you've had.
Well, packaging someone, as I had mentioned before about the executive that we packaged for his presentation for $300+ million, a few years later, that man went to an international level position with his corporation. And he went from an inside, I shouldn't say an inside because he did travel for business, but not to the level he was going to at a later date. His new position was a much more contemporary position, too. And it put him in the spotlight. But however, he wasn't going to be wearing the corporate suit all of the time. But what we did with him is we changed his hairstyle. His mannerisms naturally stayed pretty much the same because, he was polished in that area. However, we did start working on international etiquette, and because he was going to be before the press, but because he was in a more contemporary position in his company, we changed his wardrobe around completely. And we took him from very classic, very, very classic, to more of a contemporary flair in his wardrobe, with some splashes of colors, and changed it all around. The thing is, he's 58 years old, so we also needed to make it age appropriate, where sometimes people can do a makeover, but it isn't age appropriate at all. So this man still needed to be more fashion forward. He needed to be very contemporary for his position and what his area of expertise is, but also age appropriate, so he was taken seriously. And that's putting everything congruent. So we changed the colors and everything with him. It was great.
When you talk about packaging, I can't help but think about a situation I had just recently with my wife, who has always been very image and fashion conscious and is just beautiful just to begin with. But it was Valentine's Day, and we had a banquet to attend, and she went out that day and purchased a new outfit and also had her hair highlighted with just these most amazing highlights. It was just, she has it highlighted a lot, but this was really bold and really amazing, and it was just different colors, and it was awesome. And so we walked into the room that night with her outfit on, her hair, everything was just absolutely perfect. And she had all the accessories for the outfit as well, and there were probably 25 couples in this banquet, all people that we knew that were friends of ours, and people would not stop coming up to her saying, "Wow, I just can't even tell you how amazing you look tonight. It is just absolutely, you're stunning," over and over and over again, and of course I'm standing there like a proud husband saying, "Yeah, that's my girl." But that's just one example of the proper packaging can make all the difference in the world.
It does, and quite often, regardless if someone has kept up with their image all along or just making the changes, what it does, it really matches the inner and outer you, because sometimes people are so beautiful on the inside and then they go woof on the outside with wearing the right colors and that enhance their natural skin tones and fabrics that actually feel like a second skin on their body, regardless if it's male or female. Because when you walk into a room, you just feel comfortable, you feel confident, you feel, yes, this is me. And it's really dressing who you are and having everything congruent with your fashion personality, your natural skin tone, your body shape, so the fabrics fit properly and the styles fit properly.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Right. That's awesome.
It is wonderful. Yeah.
Good.
And that's probably what happened to your wife that night.
Yeah.
That's probably radiated.
So. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the word, radiation.
Yeah.
Let's go to your function as an image consultant specifically. What can a person expect when they schedule a session with you or with a typical image consultant? What actually happens?
Well, Ken, I offer coaching and training consultative services in all areas of image. So what we do when I meet with a client, we start off with a needs assessment, and we design services and appointments based on certain areas that we need to address together. And it's anywhere from appearance, grooming, etiquette, business, entertaining, communication skills, and demeanor.
So let's go to the next level then for a person when they are in a position where they're thinking, okay, this stuff is making sense, but I think I've got my act together pretty well. I think that I know how to pretty much pick out my own clothes. I know what I think looks good. I know what other people tell me looks good on me, so I don't really think I need an image consultant. What would you say to someone with that opinion?
Well, if they're having the effectiveness that they want, that they desire, that's absolutely great. If they have the competitive edge, if they're fine financially, if they're happy in their personal life and attracting the relationships that they want, the money they want, and they're right on target, that's great. However, if someone is questioning that they want to meet with an image consultant, it doesn't hurt to just talk to one. Because life happens to all of us. There's twists and turns and ups and downs. People get stuck. They're moving up a ladder. They want to change jobs. They want to polish their skills and just tweak them. There's one person that I talked to at a presentation one day. He came up and he said, "I don't need an image consultant. I'm making all the money I want." And I said, "Good." And when I looked at him, I mean, he's a very nice man, a very successful man, but I looked at him and I thought, but just think, polished, how much more you could make.
With the same amount of effort, probably, with no more effort.
You're right, because he had all the tools. He definitely did. But I couldn't help but wonder, how much more could you do?
Sure. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Let's switch gears just for a second, Debra, and talk a little bit about the area of business etiquette, business manners. You specialize in that.
Yes, I do.
And there are there's a lot of need for that out in the marketplace in business. And that's one thing I see consistently when I'm out just connecting with people and walking in and out of businesses and having meetings. I just see an enormous amount of lack there when it comes to just not understanding even basic courtesies in business. Tell us a little bit about the importance of that, and maybe I don't know, maybe you've seen an example or so of maybe a deal breaker or something. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, business etiquette is seriously one of my most popular programs that I go into companies and train for, because you can dress people up, but sometimes you just can't take them out. And business has never been more competitive as it is right now, especially with what's going on here in the United States, but actually globally. And what happened is, just before the millennium, business casual came in with a huge wave. And with that, with business casual became casual manners and everything else in business. So with that, now the pendulum's swinging back. And it's a global issue. everything became so relaxed. People weren't polished anymore. They were polishing their skills, but they were relaxed at work, the way they handled the phones, the way they conducted business with one another at work, plus out, if they were meeting clients and so forth. So now that people are dressing up more for work because actual business casual is way on the downside, the pendulum has swung back completely. With that, everybody now is naturally commanding much more respect in the workplace and better manners and better etiquette all the way through. So having polished business etiquette skills plus business entertaining and dining skills, plus knowing proper introductions, knowing how to make proper handshakes can take you very, very far. The other thing is, in the fast-paced society that we have, by using email and cell phones, sometimes you end up talking to people without even meeting them face-to-face. And that's why business etiquette is also so very important.
It's kind of interesting you mentioned that, because I know just in my own way of doing business, I behave differently when I'm dressed in a suit than I behave when I'm dressed in jeans and a casual shirt. It just kind of goes with the territory. When you dress down, when you dress casual, things are just, your attitude is a little more casual, It just kind of goes with that whole look, that whole thing. But when you're dressed up, when you're tight, when you're looking good, you look good, you look in the mirror and go, yeah, that's sharp, There is a difference in confidence, there's a difference in stature, there's a difference in the way you hold yourself, and that carries over in business. That's really interesting that you bring that out.
It carries over in people's perceptions of you when you walk in like that.
Yeah.
It does. We know that we're feeling good and looking great that day. We're polished and ready to go and confident.
Right.
But it also changes that perception of others.
Is it true?
They want to do business with you.
Right. Is it true that you can be overdressed for a circumstance as well? Is that true?
You're still better off being overdressed than you are under.
Okay.
And can you be? Yes.
Okay.
Can you loosen it up a little bit? Absolutely. But in business, especially in business, you're better off being over than underdressed.
It's interesting because when I moved from California, Southern California, up into Oregon, it was a whole different world up here. Although image is still important up here, I wasn't able to wear the tie as much as I was before, because I found I was going into businesses and talking to people, and people just weren't wearing ties. And I just felt like, okay, well, I don't want to be too intimidating, but at the same time, I want to be able to command the respect and so forth that you talk about. So it was a little bit different environment up here than it is down there. Down there, it's just a little more, prim and proper. But I guess different geographical parts of the country have different maybe trends. Would you say that's appropriate?
They do, to a point, absolutely. The thing is, if you're in sales, if you're still doing business, it's always best to walk in polished. It doesn't always mean a necktie.
Right.
However, especially for sales, I would always make sure I'm polished.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
The other thing, Ken, is you never know where you're going to meet someone.
That's true.
And, not everybody has to walk around in a suit 24/7. Nobody does have to. But just being polished, making sure that your manners are congruent all the time. No one needs to have two sets of manners.
Right. That's good.
We all naturally are a lot more relaxed in our homes, and you should be more relaxed. But really, it's still about having good manners in your home and being out, so you don't slip.
Sure.
The other thing is when you're going out, Saturdays are casual days for everyone. But going to the movie at night, even polishing yourself for that, you never know. You never know where you're going to make your first good impression. And that person might know somebody that wants your business card.
That's true. Yeah.
Or that could use your services.
There have been times when I have been out in a casual environment and just pretty much underdressed or dressed appropriately for what I'm doing. But when I saw, I happened to see somebody that I knew or, that could have had some impact on potential business, I remember thinking to myself, oh, man, I wish I had worn that other shirt instead of this one. I can certainly relate to that. That's really powerful. Just real quickly, wrapping up here, tell us a little bit. You've got a column going on. Tell us a little bit about that. And then how can someone get in touch with you to get more information about what you're doing?
Well, the Northern Michigan Men's Magazine has been a great fit to have a column. And they invited me, and, it's going just wonderful. To join their team, it's just been a win-win, I believe, for both of us. As a men's barber, and also an image consultant, and I've been polishing people now for 36 years. It's just a great win. And men's image right now has exploded completely. And 57% of men are now shopping for themselves, so they want to be knowledgeable when they walk into those stores, and so they can make good choices for themselves and what they're going to wear, and rather than walking around looking like someone who's dressed them. And men are, it's amazing what's going on with men's image.
Well, there's the whole thing of the metrosexual revolution, too, that's, out there.
I did meet one client one time. I had a chance to run into a former barber client, actually, not too long ago. And this guy was telling me in this men's clothing store that I was in that he had 11 suits now. And I said, really? And what I found was amazing was that he had 11 suits, but he wasn't even in a position that, career-wise, that he needed one. But he enjoyed wearing men's suits. But, however, it would have been so advantageous to even work with an image consultant at that point, because we could have done a core wardrobe so he would have actually had a few less clothes, and his clothes could have been working for him rather than him working for his clothes. And that's where it's so important. That's why now I see where men are educating themselves more and more on what they need.
That's
and they're
good.
Making wiser choices.
Absolutely. That's important.
A great way to get a hold of me, Ken, is through my website at DebraCarr.com, DebraCarr.com.
Okay. Well, now, whenever you're listening to this podcast, you can say to yourself, after you finish this podcast, you can say, all right, I'm going to go look in the mirror. I'm going to go look in my closet, and I'm going to see how I can really improve my circumstance, because I think most people can improve their circumstance. And I know just in the time I've spent with you, Debra, you've got just enormous insight on, just amazing things that I would have never even thought twice about, that you think, oh, my goodness, wow, okay, yeah, I never thought about that. And things that really do make a difference. So I would encourage you to get in touch with Debra, if nothing else, just for a consultation. And Debra, you can do online consultations, you can do email consultations, you can do all kinds of things, right?
Absolutely. That's the beauty right now of having the internet, because with webcams, I can coach someone right online, face-to-face that way, rather than being in person, and then also by phone. And I'm also just getting ready to start out some new classes that I'll be teaching telemars. So that's another avenue, too. It's been wonderful, actually, because it now takes businesses globally rather than, just locally. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Debra, thank you so much for being our guest today on Tools for Success. You've been so insightful and so helpful. And I tell you what, I'm going to go back to my closet and take another look and see what I can do to enhance my image a little bit. And we would encourage you, our listener, to do the same. Give Debra a call and check out her website, and I'm sure she'll be able to transform you to whatever level you need to be transformed to or desire to be transformed to. So we are out of time. Until next time, my name is Ken Inlow saying so long for now. Make sure to check out our website, toolsforsuccess.com, where you'll find many, many, many other very entertaining, exciting, and informative podcasts from movers and shakers, business leaders, industry leaders around the country, and even around the world. So check that out, and we will talk to you again next time on the next edition of Tools for Success. Bye-bye.
Tools for Success is a production of Encore Advertising in association with Tools for Success.